fatezero, the series that turned the greater Fate series into the pop culture norm. More than likely than any other Fate series, this was the show that made people aware of Fate itself. Well, aside from the game, of course. Well, aside from maybe the gacha game. Even though Fate Zero was created as a prequel sequel, it was coherent enough to be its own standalone product and was a successful anime. It was considered as one of the best animes to come out in the 2010. With its great direction and beautiful animation, it achieved pop culture status that helped inject new life to the Fate franchise as a whole. No more no more hiding in the shadows, known to be just very meh adult reading material that had some okay video games that were moderately successful. This was what created Fate into the juggernaut gotcha series that we know and lust for today. But what exactly happened in Fate Zero anyway? How does it relate to the rest of this wacky world of Fate? I shall begin my explanation by diving in. Spoilers, obviously. Also, I'm mainly going to use the anime for this. The light novel and the anime only have a few minor differences from one another, and basically the main story beats off the anime means I could use UF Tobo's fancy little pretty pictures that they make. Okay, when we last left off, there was already 3 official Holy Grail Wars. Check out my other videos explaining those. And then in an alternate reality, a different Grail War, check out my video explaining that, featuring Tomboy Mordred. But now towards the mainish timeline. Basically, the point of the whole Holy Grail War was to attempt to create a Holy Grail and then use the Holy Grail to unlock lost and powerful ancient magic. There's more to it than that, but watch my previous stuff to get more details about it. This is just the basics. So here was the official 4th attempt in the mainish timeline. So the first one, nothing really happened. The second one, too much happened. And the third one occurred in the middle of another war. So, not great. So far every attempt failed, and this was the 4th attempt, meaning that one of the main mage families, the Einsburns, was sick and tired of failing so many times. Unlike the other alternate reality where there was 14 servants, the Holy Grail was still intact in the hand of all the magic men. A National Socialist German Workers' Party member didn't steal the Holy Grail, meaning that the Einsburns and all the others could use it to start a new Holy Grail war normally. So the Einsburns did the best to make sure that the war was in their favor. The Grail itself requires fuel to work, and the only way to power it is to use heroic spirits that were summoned in to battle each other, and with each death of each and the only way to power it is using the heroic spirits that were summoned for the war. With each death, more energy is supplied to the Holy Grail. Most people believe that the Holy Grail grants a wish to the winner, which it sort of does, but also it's really bad at it. It's like an evil genie and a monkey's paw combined, but also both weaker and stronger than you think it should be. But in all honesty, the Holy Grail, as I said before, is used to unlock the lost magic of old magic. Yes, the actual name of the old ancient magic is old magic. So the Einsburns come up with a plan. Hire a super efficient magic assassin to help win the war. Pair him
Hi.
up with the strongest hero servant class, and to help sweeten the assassin's resolve, give him a hot milf for a wife, or something like that. Head honcho Yupsta Height von Einsburn employed a man named Karitsugu Emiya to go and do the work for him. At the same time, he needed to make sure that once the grill was fully charged, it would be in his hands. So he created a living vessel, Irisville von Einsburg, a homunculi, basically an artificial person specifically used to contain the Holy Grail. Fritsugu would simply use her as a tool, but Irisville had a human enough brain to start developing his own thoughts, which was not a good tool for an assassin to use, and she was also hot, and Kuritsugu couldn't help but simp and kept her alive when Yubsen Hyde tried to get rid of her because of, self-awareness. Erisville also began to develop a personality after living with Kuritsugu for a number of years, and the two actually fell in love. Though both understood their real purposes, they still had themselves a kid. She'll be important. Well, sort of important now, but she'll become even more key in the future. As they prepare for war, another family, the Tosakas, are also readying themselves. Tokiomi Tosaka has allied himself with the Holy Church this time, and together they were ready to go to war as they want to access the route, which leads to old magic yada yada yada, and they don't trust the Einsburns, yada yada yada. Here we are introduced to the church's representative in this war, Kirei Kotomine. Dogmatic to a fault, he was as fierce as he was loyal. Together, they would work together to win the war. Speaking of alliances, the Tosakas had a loose friendship with another family called the Mato, friendly enough that they even gave one of their daughters over to them for adoption, due to the family's lack of magical people. Here we see our fourth contestant, Kario Yamato, who actually left the Mato family as a whole because he was disgusted with how weak his muggle of a brother was with his lack of powers, and his brother's son Shinji wasn't any better, though he still at least liked the Tosakas and liked his niece because she actually had some talent. This is also where we're introduced to Rin Tosaka. She'll also be important in the future. Anyways, Karu finds out that his niece Sakura was taken in by the Mato family, and he also knows that his pa is kinda crazy, so he returns to his family home and sees his lovely niece being tortured in a bug pit in order to turn her into a Maho vessel. This will also all be important in the future. Disgusted, Karia makes a deal to win the Holy Grail to free Sakura from her torture, who at this point had her hair turned from black to purple and became tea. Life will only get worse for her from here on. So he takes a bunch of parasites to increase his magic in exchange for, well, what parasites tend to do to a person. Now on to contestant number 5. In the grim dark of the United Kingdom, one of the Magic Association clock tower members is selected to win the Holy Grail for the Department of Mineralogy, Kenneth Elmoloy Archibald. He is an elitist noble of the finest regard. With his loyal servant and lover, they will win the war. So one of his students whom he hates, Waver Velvet, wants in on the war. Also, he do something with his talents that he believes he should have. With the official masters selected, everyone is able to do a little bit of reconnaissance and research their opponents to prepare for the war. Not that important, but I should just note that fatezero, while being a sequel to Fate Stay Night, is technically not really. I say technically because it's technically a parallel timeline that holds many similarities, but there are some inconsistencies between the two, which while they don't really have any real effect to either of these stories, they still sort of do, as they show that they aren't really, well, as coherent as you'd like them to be. Now, in all honesty, fatezero was created a few years after Fate Stay Night, and these inconsistencies are less likely because of the parallel universe thing, and more so that because Nasu just made some mistakes and got some stuff wrong when he was creating the sequel to Fate Stay Night, which isn't a surprise because the original game had over 100 hours worth of dialogue in it, with some of the weirdest erotica you would ever read. But using a Nasu lore with multiple timelines, these inconsistencies can be handled. Masters all summon their servants. I'll just spoil them right now. Urtsugu gets King Arthur, but he is a woman and is actually Artoria, launching the ship for Saberface Fade. Arya gets a Berserker who is secretly Lancelot of the same lore, Legas. Tokiomi gets Archer, Gilgamesh, the oldest existing hero with a recorded story. Waver then picks the rider Iskandar, or better known as Alexander the Great. Spoilers, he mostly just aura farms in this show, so don't expect anything too great from him. Kenneth gets Duva Dubna, an Irish demigod with the curse of a love spot that makes him irresistible to women. And Kira gets Hassan I Sabah, a member of the Order of Assassins, a religious group that assassinated. The characters now had some time to do some character development. Artoria bonds with Ursville and divulges as to why she is a woman and not a dude. Because, she was called King, so she had to pretend to be a man as she, as a simple farmer, was the only one who could wield Excalibur, and her nation needed a king. They also talk to each other about themselves. Urtsugu then enjoys time with his daughter. This will not end well for them. Waver then bonds with a legend that is willing to give him the time of day, though he's not very used to the extrovert. Okay, that's 6, but I'm missing one. Where's the last one for caster? These are the only 6 actual certified mages participating, but you need 7 for a war. And conveniently, some dude found a magic book in their parents' attic. Turns out this dude is a serial killer with 42 body kill count, full-on psycho who kills simply for fun, and works simple odd jobs and has avoided capture over the years. He uses the book in the hopes of getting a demon to help him with his passion, and the Grail decides to give him a caster, because it's the only one left. Why does his parents have a magic book that conveniently summons a hero experience? I don't know, plot. He didn't ask for anything specific, so it just gave him a fellow serial killer in the form of Gilderay. Beyond the Arcs, former ally. Check out my Procopa video if you want to learn more about the two. So now the Grail can begin properly. And it begins with Kira sending out an assassin to grab a special gemstone from Tosaka. Gilgamesh on duty catches him and takes him out, thus ending both the church and the assassin's run for the Holy Grail. Only not really, as this assassin is actually Hassan of 100 Faces, technically to be more accurate, it would be 88 faces. Okay, now quick aside about the Hassan assassins. When compared to other fictional heroes here in Fate Zero, the Type Moon creator Nasu gave the Hassans the most amount of creative liberty when developing. As I said before, this is a prequel that was created after his first Fate work got popular, and his original story already contained a Hassan, just a different one. In real life, there was only one official Hassan Saba who created the Order of the Assassins, and the word assassin is derived from the word Hashashin. When Sabah died, another person with a different name succeeded him, and so on and so forth. So there was plenty of reason to create assassin-based characters off the Order. But instead of just picking and choosing no members of the Order, Nas decided that Hassan Saba, which is spelled with two S's for Hassan instead of the real world's one S used for Hassan, became a title to whoever was in charge of the order, so the 100 Face is officially the 19th and final leader of the Hassans. Were there 19 leaders in real life? No, yes, maybe it's very complicated, so I won't go into this any further. Just take the Fate lore at face value for now. So, why does 100 Face have the 100 Face power? Because assassins spawn on multiple disguises. Duh. Because 100 Face has 100 people, they sent out one of the weakest to go and in front of everyone show that they were eliminated. But not really, because now they can move in the shadows. Kira can ask for the full protection of the church as he schemes, as officially he is eliminated. Also from this, we also had shown Gilgamesh, a hero from an oldest surviving written epic from ancient Mesopotamian mythology. Gilgamesh probably was based on a king in the past, but might also be entirely fictional. It's old history, hard to tell. Obviously, the blonde boy band man looks nothing like his historic depictions, but for the most part, his story is similar to that of the epic. Because it's not that important to bring up the epic right now, I won't talk about it too much. So, Gilgamesh here is arrogant and cocky, having possessed all the treasures in existence already because of magic time manipulation from hero magic. I should also mention that within Fate, Nasu likes to paint him as one of the strongest, if not the strongest hero due to him being the first recorded hero. Both a king and being part of the oldest surviving epic, it gave Nasu the creative liberty to make him the king of heroes, which doesn't make that much sense if you think of someone like Zeus, who is dubbed king of gods because in his lore he was indeed both a god and a king who was in charge of the other gods that existed alongside of him, while the epic of Gilgamesh really only has Gilgamesh as the main demigod hero. It's a thing in Fate where the older the story the better, except when the rule doesn't really apply at all, but we'll get to that. It also helps if the vaguer the better. Furthermore, Gilgamesh is meant to be an unstoppable threat in Fate Stay Night, so in the Fate universe, he is given a lot of made-up powers like summoning ancient powerful weapons from a magical vault and launching it at his enemies, which is how he became an archer and later a caster, because he throws things at people. If the character was meant to be more historically accurate, the counterpart would probably be some weird wrestler type. Fate classes aren't even real in the first place, so who cares? Anyway, something like Grill would be an item that he would want, as Gilgamesh, like the others, lacks access to true old magic. But of course, Gilgamesh is not a fan of being a servant, so Tokohime needs to be careful. Anyways, waivers in Japan, dealing with a loud and boisterous Iskander. It's Persian for Alexander the Great. I'm just gonna call him Alexander because it's easier to write down. Alex is a huge human being with bronze skin and red hair. In real life, he was not that big. He was lighter skinned and probably a bit more blonde than red. This is the most important part. He had no beard, because according to him, beards can be grabbed in a fight, and also, Alex wanted to be pretty for both his wives and his boyfriends. Anyways, this Alex is trying to get Waver to grow a spine and get out fun interactions. Atoria, I refuse to call her Altria, it makes no sense in English, and well, she is English, or well, Welsh, I guess. Anyways, Toria drops some lore about how servants can get updated on some basic info so that when they get summoned, they can survive in the modern age, as they land in Japan after their plane ride. Iris is with Artoria, acting as if she was her master to hide Kuretsugu in the shadows. At the same time, Kuretsugu is sus of Kire's ease of elimination, and Kire is cautious of him. Toria and Iris then bond some more as Iris explores the new country for the first time, and Artoria decides to allow her to have some fun. Later that day, Kuretsugu gets a fellow hitwoman friend, Maya, to work with him, and he feels the stress of killing, and also does some infidelity. Night falls, and while Alex gets drunk, something that the real Alex did to a point where it became a problem, Toria and Iris' date ends when Derv Ugdovna attacks The two servants are trying to figure out who is who, because if you know the lore of the character, you would know their weakness. They duel, and despite having the class advantage, Toria is wounded first. As the two fight, assassins do recon and relay to both Kirei and Tokihime about the fight. Alex decides that he should join in too, and the two fighters continue trying to figure each other out, while Kiritsugu and Maya also scout in the shadows. Iris provides support for Artoria, and Kanef is in the shadows helping Dirov. Should I say Dirmod? It's easier to say Dirmov, but Dirva is apparently more accurate. Oh well. Artoria's wounds aren't healing, and as she realizes that's the spear's power, coupled with Derva's look, she gathers up these clues and searches up the Holy Grail wiki to find out who he is. As his identity gets discovered, Alex joins, and Gilgamesh, and Lancelot. They want to finish this war quickly, I guess. Gilgamesh tries to penetrate Lancelot, but the pucker does the pucking here, and snaps Gilgamesh's shaft. So Gilgamesh tries to pump Lancelot full, but Lancelot is too slippery. Tokihime has enough of Gilgamesh's petty squabble and recalls him, being forced to use one of his 3 command seals in order to do so. Oh yeah, command seals are what you use to control a servant. Just having them means that a servant is connected to you, and spending one means that you can do whatever you want with them for a while. Not like that, but also yes, like that I guess. Lancelot can now try to do what he does best, cuck Artoria by laying in the pipe. Will womanizer Derva pucks the pucker, willing for Kanef to use a command spell to order him to double team Artoria. I feel like I read something similar to this. Now Artoria has faced the power of 3 long shafts. Okay, I've got to stop with these bad jokes. Alex decides, however, to butt in and temporarily takes down Berserker as he wants an honorable duel. I don't know, man. It's rich coming for a guy who killed his own boy toy. Realizing that with Ryder in the way, victory wasn't surefire, Kanef then leads to his Dervu. Then so does Karya with Berserker, as he no longer has an advantage. Also, Lancelot being a Berserker is hard to control for Karya, and he is slowly being eaten alive by the parasites, as one does. Serial killer Renosuke is also busy having fun with gills. Killing people now is the first skirmish done. Saber and Iris go on a joyride, and boy howdy does Iris finally get to let herself loose. But then they run to Gills, who's standing in the middle of the road. He locks eyes with Artoria, and because of the saber-faced gene, he believes that Artoria is Jean de Arc. Gills leaves and decides to win Artoria's love by mass murder, cause, you know, he's not the most sane. Kenneth, Dervu, and Kenneth's wife Sola in a hotel and reflect on the events while Kiritsugu commits a terrorist act by bombing the place. Kirei and Gilgamesh then bond and start taking interest with one another as Kirei begins his journey of understanding that he enjoys watching other people suffer. At the same time, the church's overseer temporarily changes the rules so that everyone will target Castor, because at this point, having a mass child killer going around using dark magic was sort of blowing the cover of the secret magic people. Thus, the bounty is set, and the reward was extra command seals taken from previous masters from past wars. With this pause of battle, everyone forms a new plan. Urtsugu uses Castor's obsession with Artoria, whom he believes is Jan, to trap him in. After a plan is formulated, the pressure and guilt of years of assassination weighs on Kiritsugu, and he thinks to run away with his Irisville and Ilya, but at the end of the day chooses to stay and fight. And eventually deal with Kira, whom at this point has able to predict most of his moves so far. Now with the decision to stay and fight, Castor launches an attack with a herd of children he's caught. Iris and Maya leave the castle mansion base staying while the others fight. Turns out the children have tentacle creatures inside and they explode. And when Artoria comes to save them, she gets the tentacle. Thankfully, Lancer Deervu comes to aid Artoria against Gil, but that also means that his master Kenneth is after Kiritsugu. Kiritsugu activates Kenneth's trap card, Metal Reflective Slime, but is able to escape with the use of his Awado. Then Kiritsugu uses anti-magic gun and wounds Kenneth. Kira is also here and finds Iris and Maya and easily dispatches Maya, and Iris's magic doesn't prove to be much better. Good news, the servants are doing well against Gills at least, and they damage his book and cause him to retreat. While the other fight has Kenneth slowly bleeding out as he tries to chase after Kiritsugu, who then fires another one of his special bullets. We're told that these bullets are dubbed Origin Rounds by his old teacher, and as said before, they're anti-magic bullets. They destroy magic, and those hit by it lose their magic circuits, meaning they can no longer use magic. With Kenneth down, his life is saved by Dervu, who spares Kiritsugu's life because he wants a proper fight with Artoria. Fool. Doesn't he realize that the class advantage means that he stands no chance? Kira then stabs Iris and leaves before Artoria can arrive. Good news is that Artoria's artifact, the Scabbard, has healing properties and saves Iris. Deervu then flashes back to days in which his love spot got him in a whole lot of trouble, to the real lore of Deervu, where a woman named Grania falls in love with him due to his love spot. But she was set to marry Fionn, who was also his chief boss guy. But Fionn was an old uggo, and Grania wanted Dervu, who understandably said no. So she basically roofied him and took him with her, and thus he became a wanted man by his own group of people. And it kind of wakes up and realizes that not only is he injured so badly that he can't use his magic anymore, but he's also tied up by his wife. And not in the fun way either. Sol fell victim to a love spot and wanted Deervu as her servant, and with Kanef rendered unable to continue, she forces him to hand the command seals over to her, not really caring about Kanef at all. You see, Sola has never actually felt any real emotions of love and lust before in her life, so when the magic beauty spot activated, making her feel things that she's never felt before, it drove her a bit crazy. So with the use of a little bit of torture, she gets what she wants. But Deervu, burnt once already by an obsessive woman, was not exactly going to let another one do the same to him again, only really fighting out of obligation more than anything else. Kurtsugu, wannabe hero justice, thinks that the lives of the many outweighs the lives of the few, while Artorio disagrees with that sentiment as they do not go after Castor to stop his rampage. Anyways, Alexander the Great is just having fun and Waver is being a nerd, but his nerd powers find Castor's secret lair. So they invade and discover a lot of bodies, including another assassin body, showing that there are more than one assassin. Anyways, Rin Tosaka. Hold on, you're only supposed to be a protagonist in the next set of fake guff. Anyways, she goes around practicing magic and becomes a detective looking for her and encounters Rionos, who kidnapped her classmate. Using magic, she rescues her classmate and makes friends with her in what I would definitely call a filler episode. Then we run into the Banquet of Kings, or Meeting of Kings, or whatever. It's essentially just a conversation about how Artorias was too self-righteous, and in order to be a proper king, they should just take rule and own everything.
Gods don't choose, we take.
Also, the titles don't really make that much sense because yes, Arturia is the king of knights, but that's mainly because she's a king, and Arthurian tales are romanticization of knights in shining armor, but every king or queen has knights. Hell, any noble lord would have a knight under their vassalage. It kinda is a pointless title. This whole scene really was made to put down Artoria more than anything and make her doubt her own ideals and purpose. Kinda playing into the fact that back in Fate State Night, she was unsure about her rule and purpose as king. Anyways, this Artoria burying is however interrupted when all the assassins come and try to ambush them, only for Alex to pull his noble phantasm and have his army completely eliminate the sexy class. With Meaning and Jiren and a servant class missing, everyone then leaves. Gilgamesh and Kira then continue to collude with one another, planning their next steps, perhaps mentioning that Gilgamesh's master wasn't very good for him, and also how Kira really does enjoy hurting other people. All the while, Gil is angry with his failed attack plan, and now decides to plan for something bigger, larger, and better. Then the anime decides to end its season by picking a fight with me by stating that history's description of Alexander's appearance is wrong, and only a fool would believe in the books.
I have always believed that you should never completely trust what's written in a book when you don't know the person who wrote it.
Fuck you. Don't try to use that to explain any of your historical inaccuracies. Don't try to sell me on your fake history. Magic doesn't exist in real life. Santa is dead and Tooth Fairy's a hoe. We all know why these characters look like they do in the Fate universe. Because Nasu and his artists like drawing hot people. This whole thing started off as an adult game. Whilst is Medusa a creature who's meant to be so ugly they could turn you into stone, a purple BDSM lover? And why is Arthur a woman who received a giant magic penis that created a tomboy? I don't think I don't know about fake Khaled Linear Prisma Ilya exists. I know what goes on in there. I'm like 70% sure that Type Movie gets a cut of all the fan creations of mature works that gets produced by this. The reason why historical figures don't look like they should is for both variety and for eye candy. And while I enjoy the eye candy, don't you try and call me out like this. I like history, okay? Anyways, moving on. Alex and Waver spend more time getting to know each other, and Waver slowly but truly begins to find and understand what he wants in life. This boy who struggled with his own inadequacies finally understands a man who did nothing but move forward throughout most of his life, trying to chase a dream. Unfortunately, an explosion interrupts the moment as Gil readies up for round 2 and brings an even bigger and badder Eldritch horror to the battle than before. Thus, once again, the masters and servants team up to deal with the rampant mad caster, thus ending season 1. With that comes the end of this video. I'll be honest, I was originally planning on tackling the whole thing in one single vid, but honestly, laziness and time kinda got to me. Don't worry, the conclusion will be made soon, and that's where the big juicy stuff happens, so stay tuned for that and other videos covering silly dumb things like this. Until then, check out my other videos, there are some more Fate stuff if you want, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and stay notified for the next video. And until then, this is Captain Bill, signing off. See ya.